Hello everybody. If you want to read all the stories in full, please go to www.steveuk.blog. Thank you. Short Story 639, The Alchemist's Quest, Homophones 7, Intermediate. In a quiet village nestled in the hills, an alchemist named Elias worked tirelessly in his workshop. His shelves were lined with jars of seeds, each one ready to seed its potential to grow into rare plants. Elias wasn't just planting seeds, he was chasing a dream to create a potion that could heal any wound. His latest experiment involved a castor bean, which he ground with a heavy castor wheel to extract its oil. One morning, Elias caught a faint scent drifting from his potion. It wasn't the usual sharp smell of herbs but something sweet, almost magical. He followed the scent to the village court, where a crowd had gathered. A raven perched on a statue, letting out a sharp call that echoed through the air. Elias felt it was calling him to the core of his quest, as if the bird belonged to some ancient alchemist's core. He hurried back to his workshop, where the ceiling seemed to glow faintly, as if sealing his fate. Elias checked his tools, a sensor he'd built to detect magical energy beeped wildly. He lit a sensor, its smoke curling upward, hoping it would clear his mind. The village censor, a stern woman named Mara, had warned him about dangerous experiments, but Elias ignored her. He wasn't here to sell potions in a common cell of a market stall, he wanted to create something extraordinary. Elias mixed the castor oil with a cereal grain he'd found in an old tome, believing it held the key to his cereal experiments. The potion bubbled, releasing a scent-sized spark of light. He sent a sample to a friend in the city, who confirmed its power. But the potion was cheap to make, almost too easy, like the cheep of a sparrow compared to the raven's bold call. Days later, Mara stormed in, demanding Elias stop. "Your work risks the village," she cried. Elias, calm, showed her the potion's glow. "This could save lives," he said. Mara hesitated, then nodded. Elias had won her over. He distributed the potion, and soon, the village thrived, wounds healing instantly. The raven cawed once more, as if in approval, and Elias knew he'd found the core of his life's work. Vocabulary notes. Alchemist. Noun. Meaning, a person who studies or practices alchemy, a medieval science aiming to transform substances, often to create gold or potions. Example, in a quiet village nestled in the hills, an alchemist named Elias worked tirelessly in his workshop. Similar words, chemist, sorcerer, magician, scientist. Note, while chemist is more scientific today, alchemist often implies mystical or historical pursuits. Potion. Noun. Meaning, a liquid with magical, healing, or poisonous properties, often created through special processes. Example, he was chasing a dream to create a potion that could heal any wound. Similar words, elixir, concoction, brew, mixture. Note, elixir often suggests a cure or benefit, while concoction can be more general. Scent. Noun. Meaning, a pleasant or distinctive smell, often detected in the air. Example, Elias caught a faint scent drifting from his potion. Similar words, aroma, fragrance, odor, perfume. Note, scent and fragrance are usually positive, while odor can imply unpleasant smells. Censor. Noun, in story, can also be a verb. Meaning, a person who examines and suppresses unacceptable or dangerous content, also, to suppress or ban something. Example, the village censor, a stern woman named Mara, had warned him about dangerous experiments. Similar words, inspector, regulator, critic, overseer. Note, as a verb, censor means to remove or restrict, e.g., they censored the book. Core. Noun. Meaning, the central or most important part of something, either physically or figuratively. Example, Elias felt it was calling him to the core of his quest. Similar words, heart, essence, center, crux. Note, core can be literal, e.g., apple core, or figurative, e.g., core beliefs. Story written by Grok AI. Image created by Grok AI. To read all the stories in full, please go to www.steveuk.blog. Thank you.
Hello and welcome. Today we are diving into the world of alchemy, but we're not just looking for some magic potion. No, the real secret we're after is actually hidden inside the words of a story. And what we find might just surprise you. First things first, we've got to meet our main character. We're going to kick things off with a short story about an alchemist who's on a big quest to create this incredible, miraculous healing potion. So, let's picture this. We meet Elias, this super dedicated alchemist. He's surrounded by jars of seeds, and he has this one big dream, to create a potion that can heal literally any wound. He's using a heavy castor wheel to grind up a castor bean. That's a key ingredient for his latest try. But his journey is tough, full of challenges, from weird omens like a raven's cry to getting warnings from the strict village censor. It really has all the feel of a classic story of ambition and discovery. But here's the thing. As Elias is working on his potion, there's a totally different kind of magic at play here, one that you hear, not one that you see. So let's dig in and explore what's really going on just beneath the surface of this story. And that's the big question, isn't it? The story of Elias is great, for sure, but its real job is to teach us something really fascinating about the English language itself. It's kind of like a puzzle box, and we're just about to open it up. And here it is. This is the secret. The entire story is built very carefully using words that sound exactly the same, but have totally different meanings and, importantly, different spellings. It's a really brilliant trick, and it's a great way to highlight one of the toughest challenges for anyone learning English. The official name for this little language trick is a homophone. Let's break that down. Homo means same, and phone means sound. So same sound, different meaning. And because they sound exactly alike, the only way you can tell them apart when you're listening is by paying close attention to the context of the sentence. Okay, now it's time to put on our language detective hats. Let's break down the specific homophones that Elias' story uses to work its magic. So right from the get-go, Elias has these jars of seeds, spelled S-E-E-D-S, for his plants. But the story also says they are ready to cede their potential, spelled C-E-D-E. So one is a physical thing, and the other is an action of giving something up. Same sound, but they describe two completely different worlds. Okay, now listen to this next one. The story describes both the tool and the ingredient. Elias uses oil from a castor bean, C-A-S-T-O-R, and he grinds it with a castor wheel, C-A-S-T-E-R, a plant and a piece of machinery, but they sound exactly the same. If you couldn't see the spelling, only the context would tell you which is which. And now get ready for a tricky one, a triplet. The story talks about the scent of the potion. That's S-C-E-N-T. It also describes a spark that's the size of a cent, C-E-N-T, like a coin. And finally, we're told Elias sent a sample to his friend, spelled S-E-N-T. A smell, money, and an action, all hiding behind the very same sound. Here's another triplet for you. It starts with a sound, the raven's caw, C-A-W. That sound pulls Elias right to the core of his mission, C-O-R-E. Then he imagines the raven belongs to an alchemist's corpse, C-O-R-P-S, which is like a special group. It's actually amazing how one single sound can connect a bird's cry, a deep sense of purpose, and an entire team. So let's go back into the workshop. The story describes this glowing ceiling, C-E-I-L-I-N-G. At that exact same moment, this magical event feels like it's sealing his fate. S-E-A-L-I-N-G. So you've got the top part of a room and the act of making something final. Okay, now this one is just brilliant. The story mentions a sensor for detecting magic, S-E-N-S-O-R. Then there's an incense burner, which is called a censer, C-E-N-S-E-R. And finally, the village official who inspects all his work is a censor, spelled C-E-N-S-O-R, A detection device, a ritual object, and a person in charge, all pronounced the exact same way. Pretty clever, right? So in this part of the story, the secret ingredient is a cereal grain, cereal. And this big discovery is just one part of his ongoing cereal experiments, serial. One word is a kind of food, the other describes a bunch of things happening one after another. All right, and in our last example, Elias realizes his amazing potion is actually cheap to make, CHEAP. The story then compares this simple success to the quiet cheep of a sparrow, CHEEP. It's a really cool contrast between low cost and a tiny sound, and it all hangs on that one pronunciation. You know, it's not just the homophones that make this story so cool. The whole narrative is also built on some really key vocabulary words that paint this incredible picture. So let's take a quick look at 5 of the words that really bring Elias's world to life. First up, alchemist. So what even is an alchemist? Well, think of them as part scientist, part philosopher, and maybe even a little part mystic. They weren't just mixing chemicals randomly. They were trying to figure out the secrets of the universe, whether that meant turning lead into gold or creating magical elixirs, just like Elias. Next up, potion. It's pretty straightforward, a liquid with special, often magical powers. You might also hear words like elixir or concoction, but a potion usually means it's a very specific, carefully crafted recipe with a really powerful effect. Scent. It just means a smell, but we usually use this word for something pleasant or unique, like the scent of a flower or a perfume. It's a little different from, say, an odor, which can often mean something not so nice. In our story, the scent is a magical clue for Elias. Then we have the word censor. Now, in the story, Mara the censor is a noun. She's a person, a regulator. But you gotta remember, this word can also be a verb, which means the act of suppressing or removing something. You know, like to censor a book. And finally, we have core. This can be literal, like the core of an apple, or it can be figurative, like the core of an idea. For Elias, it was the core of his quest, the central purpose of his entire life's work. It's really the heart of the matter. Okay, so we've pulled apart the story, we've identified the homophones, and we've defined the key vocabulary. But what's the big takeaway here? Why does any of this actually matter? So how do you get the hang of tricky words like these? It really boils down to 3 key things. First, context is king. The words around the tricky word will almost always give away the correct meaning. Second, when you're reading, the spelling is your best and clearest clue. And third, the more you read, the more you train your ear to hear those tiny differences in context, even when you can't see the words written down. We'll end on this thought. Elias was looking for magic in his potion, but we found it hidden in the language of his story. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other kinds of invisible magic are hiding in the language that you and I use every single day? Thanks for joining us.